Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the TAPED podcast, the most brief podcast in the world. on the world. And today we have a very special episode. We're taking a little break from some of our structured content, and we're bringing you a new series. It's called On Tape, and we're going to get guests on and just have a civil discussion about, music, movies, media, anything we want. And we're starting off with a bang. We have a very special guest with us today. Obviously joining me is MickyT. Everyone knows him. Say hi, Mick.
What's good, boys?
On top of that, we have the one and only Ruff Criminal. Say hi.
Hello. How's it going, everyone?
All good, man.
Good. How are you doing, Ruff?
I'm great. Yeah, excited to be doing this. This is fun.
Sure, man.
Glad
Thanks
to
for
have
coming
you
on.
here. Okay.
I feel honored. I didn't know this was a whole new direction for you guys.
Yeah, this is the pilot of this new spin-off.
I'll try to make it a good one.
Yeah, we've been hinting at this for weeks now. We're ready to make it a good one.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
Yeah, go ahead. No, me and Mick were just in talks about starting something like this for probably a year now, to be honest. Guess we just never got around to it, but finally, today is the day.
It is indeed the day. And we're starting off with a bang, of course, with Ruff Criminal. And I suppose we'll just start off with this simply. So, Ruff, tell us about yourself. Tell us about your channel. Tell us about what you do.
Oh, man. So, for anybody who doesn't know, I am a guy who makes 10-second reviews on YouTube. Mostly album reviews. I started doing movies, too. I started doing this, I think it was like the end of March or early April. And it absolutely exploded and took off in a way I never expected. So I guess now I'm some sort of fixture in the YouTube music community, which is pretty bizarre to me because I've just been a fan of this kind of stuff for so long. But yeah, I mean, at heart, I'm just a guy who loves music and loves movies and thought it would be funny to review them in the most concise manner imaginable. And here we are. Now I'm being interviewed by the great Taped podcast. So
I'm flattered. I'm flattered.
An honor on both ends. Yeah, your content definitely kind of fulfills a niche that wasn't really there on YouTube previously. We had this discussion before, but like a lot of the time, a lot of people just, when it comes to Fantana reviews, just check the description. A lot of people just want kind of very concise opinions on albums. And, that format usually didn't work, with YouTube videos. You usually would check, review scores on like publications like Pitchfork or whatever if you wanted, a brief glimpse of what, general consensus on an album is. You don't only just give a score. You don't even give a score. You give opinions very briefly. It's bite-sized. You can just watch like 30 and however many minutes and, flick through your entire channel in like an afternoon. It's really fresh, and it makes complete sense to me why you blew up as much as you did. I think the niche that you satisfy is very needed in the YouTube space. There's no one quite like you.
I'm humbled, man. Like I said, I was not expecting this to blow up in any way. It was just sort of a goofy hobby project. I just wanted to do this to kind of make my family and friends laugh. But I guess in retrospect, it makes sense. Like, it's kind of a symptom of the short attention span that people have. And the other thing I'll say is, like, I thought this was an original idea, but I realized that I'm not the first to do something like this. And I always try to shout out the forefathers that I've identified. The first being Here Lies Music was a channel that I found out about that did like short reviews and skits. And I think he stopped in like 2015. I never actually saw any of his videos or his channel, but people said I was the resurrection of Here Lies Music, so I take that as a compliment. And the other guy would be, I'm guessing you guys are familiar with Mike the Snare.
Oh yeah.
He has a quick review Basharoo series that I had honestly never seen until like the day after I recorded my first batch, and I was like, oh man, I feel like I'm maybe encroaching a little bit, but he seems really cool. I reached out to him. He seems supportive, and I'm glad to have somebody like that on board because he's huge too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Actually, I just wanted to ask something here. Well, like, of course, you're on about your interactions there with Mike the Snare and just comparisons with other YouTube channels. I was just wondering, like, was there any interactions with other artists and content creators that you were surprised that had even happened, and like, how did you feel about that? Like, I know you had a short little exchange with Danny Brown there a few weeks ago. When
Oh my God, yeah.
Posted one of your reviews, and he
That's
supports
just
your
like
content.
that's the craziest thing I think so far, because man, I've been a fan of Danny Brown for I don't know how long it's been, like since I started getting into rap in like I think 2013, and he was like somebody that immediately I was drawn to because he was just such an eclectic rapper, and it was like Danny Brown's messing with my content. Like I kind of understand it because I was reviewing, you know, some of the artists on Bruiser Brigade, but it was just like, wow, that's nobody can tell me anything, man. Like Danny Brown likes my videos. Like,
You get to flex that now.
yeah, that's crazy. And as far as the YouTube ones, like Nathan Zed, I honestly had maybe seen a couple of his videos prior, but he was like in my comments on like the first couple when I was blowing up, and I got to do an interview with him, and that was really cool. And John Denton was like, John Denton's one of like, I don't know, 4 or 5 music channels that I genuinely watched like all the time prior to doing this. So that was just surreal to me that he supported it right away, because I was honestly concerned when my stuff blew up that people would be like really mad at me because I'm sort of, you know, breaking my way into what they do by doing so little work that, I don't know, I thought it would infuriate people. But I mean, everyone I've interacted with seems supportive. Maybe the ones who haven't interacted with me are mad at me. We'll see.
We'll
Yeah,
see. We'll see.
The cool thing about, you know, music reviews and the like is that you can't really, you know, step on other people's boundaries because everyone has a different opinion on music. It's not like it's not like you're gonna take someone's opinion verbatim, especially considering your videos are only 10 seconds long, and you know, I don't think there's any, you know, any stepping over boundaries, any kind of redundancy when it comes to your videos and any other, you know, creators' videos. That's why, I mean, there's a lot of people doing music reviews on YouTube, and every single one you watch, you know, there's something completely different there. You know, even if their opinions are different, it's not just their opinions, it's also their background, you know, their ideas of what good music is, bad music is. And I think, you know, a lot of that can be daunting to watch, but I think yours are always just a blast. They don't take themselves too seriously, and I think, you know, a lot of people in this space do kind of take everything a little bit too seriously, and I definitely appreciate getting your opinions in like a matter of 10 seconds and just having a good laugh.
As do I.
Thanks. Yeah,
as do
that's the, you know, obviously I would consider my channel a parody of music reviews and criticism on YouTube in general. Like, you know, even my thumbnail's kind of in ways like a parody of Anthony Fantano. But, you know, I wanted to make it lighthearted. And at the same time, you know, I'm in a position where I can actually, you know, recommend music to people. So it's like, okay, I'll put some effort into it, come up with, you know, a serious review. And I'm doing air quotes. You can't hear that. But, you know, it is supposed to be lighthearted and fun. And at the end of the day, if I could just point people to music and have them go listen to something they've never heard before, then I'm good. Like, I'm doing something worthwhile.
Yeah, I feel like that lightheartedness towards like music discussion and music content in general is kind of a much needed thing now, especially like with like enigmas like hip hop Twitter being a thing, and like I guess just the toxicity like generating around like a lot of negative reactions to reviews. Like obviously, you know, Fantano throughout the years has had his fair share of negative reactions as well as other creators, but I feel like your content definitely just adds that lightheartedness and like just funness to the whole music sphere. So I definitely appreciate like what you do on that level, and it's genuinely entertaining content.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. I will say though that I did just release a review of Lord's Melodrama, and that was somewhat of a negative review. I mean, I just said I feel like the only person who doesn't like it, and that one's getting ratioed, I would say. But
everyone gets.
But even then, you know, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's not bad. I don't want to insult the music. I don't like it. So, but everyone, I mean, people have been asking me to review it, so it's like you're not gonna like what I have to say, but I'll do a little video.
That's actually something interesting, because what are some of your like music hot takes, just out of curiosity?
Oh man, that is a great question. I don't know, man. It's hard for me to. I mean, I'd have to get into a discussion about any particular artist or album, and then I'm sure some would come up. But like, I don't know off the top of my head which of my takes would be hot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I totally get that. I do kind of have those moments too, but I rarely have hot takes. But whenever I do, I suppose I could just throw them out there every once in a while, see what people think. Well, I can totally understand, like, we're just putting you on the spot right now. You can't really just name your hot takes off the spot. So I totally get that.
Hey, yeah, if we're gonna get into some different artists or whatever, I'm sure I can come up with some.
Yeah, I'm
hot
sure
takes
we will.
come from deep down.
That's right.
I actually have a question. Because you do have a format to your videos, 10 seconds max. Do you ever find yourself kind of constrained by that? Do you ever feel like you wish you had more time to ever talk about an album, or has it always just been easy for you?
Yes and no. I think obviously I could talk at length about certain albums. Like plenty of the ones I've reviewed, I really love, and it's like I'll have a discussion about music with people, and I have ideas to do somewhat longer things to give me a chance to talk about, but I like the 10-second constraint because it forces me to come up with like the ultimate headline, or the ultimate tagline for the album. And like, even whether it's an album I just listened to and I'm like trying to come up with something on first listen, or if it's something I've been spinning for years, I think it's a cool exercise for me to say, okay, if I had to distill this into a sentence and describe to somebody in a way that's going to maybe get them to listen to it, like, what can I say? It's kind of like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the term elevator pitch, but like it's this whole concept of like trying to pitch something or pitch yourself in that brief moment you might have in an elevator. So I'm kind of like, it's almost like elevator pitches for these albums, which I think is a fun exercise to just kind of be concise and find the right words. I'm all about that.
That's a great way to put it, actually.
Yeah. I suppose when you're going into your reviews and just basically condensing down like your taglines for your albums, what kind of floats through your head when you're thinking, okay, what am I going to say about this album? Like, what is this about? What am I going to say? Like, I know it's generally based off of opinion, but I mean, I suppose, like, what's the thought process that goes into just deciding what you're about to say about said album?
Sure. So I try to shy away sometimes from saying whether or not I like the album. For the same reason I don't put numbers in the description, because I don't really see the use in just telling somebody, hey, I like this or I don't like this. If I want them to listen to it, I kind of want to describe it in a way. So that's kind of what I'm looking for most of the time, is like some qualitative descriptor of the music. And maybe it's a comparison to something else. Maybe it's, a lyric that I latch onto. And the other thing too is, like you guys said, my channel is pretty lighthearted. And so sometimes I just want to make a joke, whether that's about a lyric or comparing it to something else. Like, I think one of my personal favorites recently was my review of Hobo Johnson, saying that, it sounded like if the Joker could rap. Like, little jokes like that, that's what I'm looking for too. So, particularly when I'm reviewing an album that I don't really like, I'm looking for more of a joke, because I don't want to just be harsh on it, criticize. I mean, I can find something worth laughing at, or at the same time, any given album, there's going to be at least one song I think that I enjoy. So I can look to that one for reference and try to describe it in some way. Okay. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it does. It does.
I don't really have like a artistic process. I did that interview with Baz Reviews. He asked me the same question. I love that, because it's like, man, I don't know, like, this stuff just pops in my head sometimes. I'm like, okay, that could be a funny thing to say about this, or
Yeah.
Right, makes sense. Shout out to Baz Reviews.
Yeah. I was just wondering about, because I'm very curious about your very quick, increase in popularity. Was there a specific video, do you recall, blowing up? Is there any moment where you thought, oh, this is really picking up pace?
Absolutely, yeah. And it was my review of the new Brockhampton album, Roadrunner, because that was the first one I did, like, when it came out. I thought it would be fun to try and see, like, okay, can I do one the day it comes out? And obviously, I really wanted to listen to that album, and I was listening to it, like, day of. And that one came to me quick, saying that they finally sound famous. And, I think when I posted that, I probably had, like, 17 or 18 subscribers. And then, like, by the next morning, I think I was over 1,000. And it was like, okay, this is pretty bizarre. Because, like, I was just hanging out with, my brothers and cousins on Xbox, and we're just, like, laughing and checking the subscriber count. Like, what is going on? Like, why? And I think, even at that point already, it was like Nathan Zed was in the comments, and it was like, what is happening here? But, like, the most popular one, I think at this point by views, is Igor. So maybe that, like, I think the Roadrunner one probably put it in front of a lot of people's eyes, and then from there, people might have latched on to the Igor and shared that one around or something.
For me personally, I don't know if it's to do with, my personal music preference, but the one that was really pushed to me was the Phoebe Bridgers Punisher one.
Okay.
That one was on every single one of my videos, like, in the sidebar.
That one, yeah, I noticed that one doing pretty well. And I liked that one blowing up because I felt like that one was a little more sincere, a little more like a good qualitative description. And, I mean, I generally enjoy anything related to Phoebe Bridgers, and her fans seem to take to that one pretty well. So I was like, cool.
Yeah.
I suppose when you're actually going in to listen to an album and, actually just listen to the music for yourself for fun or for whatever, what's your ethos when going into an album? Or I suppose, what do you look for the most when it comes to an album experience?
Oh man, that's a doozy. I don't know, man. I just listen to a ton of music, and it's like any album that I listen to, I'm looking for something to enjoy. I feel like going back to the discussion about Here Lies Music, I heard a podcast where he was saying he stopped doing it because he was looking for things to criticize, and it made him not enjoy listening to music. So I'm glad I'm not doing that. I just, anytime I listen to an album, I'm looking for, whether it's some songs that I like, or it's like, do I like the album as a whole? And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you're looking for any more particular, what do I look for going into an album? It's hard to say for, like, as a blanket statement, because it depends on the artist or the genre. But yeah, I don't know. I'm big on melody.
I totally get that. I mean, I suppose for me, it's just, I just want the songs to click and, like, actually give me a good, make me feel like a good response. It's like what I'm actually hearing. That's just all I'm looking for. And, if it clicks, I'm loving it. And I'm still doing it like this, and I'm happy about it. I'm still finding great music.
One thing I'll say that, I don't know if this would shock some people, but I can generally tell just one listen through of an album if I really like it. I mean, because I'll keep track of the songs that I really enjoy. Obviously, if it's like I'm going back into the discussion of my favorite albums of the year or something, those I'm going to be listening to over and over again. But, like, on a first listen, I'll get a general sense of, like, okay, is this one I want to return to? That sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, same as you, like, I'm looking for stuff that I enjoy. I understand that there's a lot of, like, music nerd type artists and albums where people are like, okay, but you really got to listen to it like 10, 15 times before it clicks. And, like, I get that, but at the same time, if you really have to work that hard, you're just, you don't really enjoy it, But, like, at the same time, if it's so foreign, there was a great article on Pitchfork about why we listen to new music and the idea of, like, you're having to create new, like, neural paths and networks in your brain because it's sounds you haven't heard before. And I like that a lot. And so, I don't know, but I feel like if I hear something I've never heard before, I generally like that because I'm like, oh, this is cool. And, like, even if it's kind of abrasive or whatever, it's like, if I've never heard it before, I'm going to want to return to that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel a lot of that as well.
I don't like to force it though. There's obviously certain albums and stuff where I'm like, yeah, this isn't for me, and I can listen to it more times, and it's still not going to be for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I
No, you
think
have to listen to it like 10 times.
there's there's obviously some that are more demanding than others, but I think with a lot of albums, I kind of can build up my opinion on first or even second listen. There's some that definitely are a lot more, for lack of a better word, interesting. But yeah, no, I definitely, I agree with that. I think first impressions and just the idea of just having fun on first listen, I think means a lot in terms of new music for me personally.
Yeah.
You know, if it is a slog on first listen, it's, you know, even if, you know, it is a grower, I think the fact that consecutive listens can become a chore is just something that can even subconsciously just turn you off a record. And I usually, I try not to over listen to albums that I just know I don't, that won't click with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
I,
sense.
I get similar vibes.
If I were somebody like Anthony Fantano, who, you know, does these detailed reviews, like I imagine he listens to albums multiple times before prepping those reviews. But thankfully, mine are 10 seconds, so
yeah.
it's like I don't have to do a ton of homework.
It's kind of weird how, like, I suppose, like, obviously he has like loads of like editors and stuff like that. But it's just finding the time to listen to like so much music that you want to review, and there's even music that like you only put in like why you know reviews and stuff like that. It must be tiresome, like when you think about it.
Oh yeah.
Like in some instances, like it's probably a lot for someone to take in, especially someone who does this all the time, like Fantano. So I'd imagine so.
Well, if you have the luxury of doing it full time, I imagine it's a bit easier. But you know, this is just a hobby for me, so my list of things to listen to is always growing. And as much as I try to whittle it down, it's like by the time I do, there's new music coming out next week. So, but, you know, I enjoy it, so I'm going to keep listening to this stuff, and I might as well come up with my 10-second reviews while I'm at it.
Of course. We didn't get a new Kanye album today, obviously, and today's been a tad bit slow for album releases. I had a feeling that this would happen. Like, Kanye is so inconsistent when it comes to this kind of stuff. So, on one hand, I'm not really surprised, and on the other hand, I'm just so mad because there's not a whole lot notable that came out today for me.
Yeah. Did either of you guys watch the Apple Music event last night? Or I don't know what time that would have been for you guys.
It would have been.
I'm a Spotify pleb.
It was supposed to be at 1 a.m. our time, but I think it only started at like 3 a.m. because it is obviously Kanye.
It started late.
Yeah. No, I got the trial of
I
got a trial of Apple Music in preparation, but I just fell asleep by then, to be honest.
Understood.
What did you think of the material that he played at the show?
Man, there's some really interesting stuff in there, and I mean, I don't know if it'll be out by the time this podcast comes out, so I'm hesitant to like spoil anything, but like there was plenty in there that I was like, this doesn't sound finished. Like a lot of it sounded still like, you know, reference tracks. Maybe that's, you know, his lyrical style at this point. He does that on a lot of songs, but there was a lot that was really good and a lot that moved me, like genuinely moved me. And I was like, this has potential to be really, really good. So I'm still hopeful. I'm still excited to see if the album comes out. I know, you know, we all enjoy the memes and everything and the comparisons to Yandi, but like I think there's a better chance here because, you know, he went through the whole process of the listening party. It was a lot like, you know, Life of Pablo, which if you remember Life of Pablo, he was still working on it at the time of that premiere. I can't remember if the album proper came out, you know, the night after. That was so long ago, but you know, I attended that premiere too, and it was just like, you know, and that's one where he kept tweaking it for like weeks and months after and adding songs and stuff. So maybe that's just his mindset with this one, which I don't mind because I genuinely think there's some really good stuff on this album. If you guys didn't have a chance to hear it, there will be some songs you like for sure. I can't say about the album as a whole. I don't know what the reception is going to be, but there's some good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose Kanye is you could call him a bit of a perfectionist in some cases, but at the same time, like I don't know. It's just it feels weird that he would just leave all of these ideas last minute and just have a whole listening party and an ad that would say that it would come out on Friday and all that, and just not drop it and still work and still keep working on it. Like I hope it drops, obviously, and I hope it's as good as Kanye would want it to be. I don't know. It just seems weird that I don't know. It's just hyping up and displaying just rough drafts already instead of just a finished product. Like I don't know. It seems kind of off to me, but at the same time, it's kind of a Kanye thing to do at this stage. I mean, like you mentioned. Yeah, like you mentioned with the Life of Pablo, like over months, that album got new mixes, new versions of different songs. So who knows? Maybe it'd be that kind of a situation with Donda, but who knows?
Yeah, Kanye has his own approach to releasing music. I think for sure.
It's like he's a perfectionist and an imperfectionist at the same time, because a lot of times he's just like, screw it. Here's what it sounds like. I'm not going to fill in this lyric where I just kind of mumbled something. But also. Shoot. I hope I didn't just lose my train of thought. I might have.
It's fine.
Oh, no. There was something else I wanted to say on that. I can't remember.
It's fine. That happens to me. I've ADHD.
Actually, on the topic of Kanye, just out of curiosity, what's your favorite Kanye album? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, I can answer this. I put this in my Q&A video too. I said that basically it's between My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and Yeezus. Like, I feel like depending on the day, either one of those is my favorite. Or like when I'm listening to either one of those, I'm like, yeah, this is my favorite. Like they're both really good. But the thing, like, I have a really hard time ranking them after that. Like I could put both of those like tied for first pretty much. And then it's like almost every other Kanye album is tied for second, or I guess third. And then I would safely say Jesus is King is my least favorite. But like everything else, has its strengths and has a place near the top in my mind.
Yeah. It's like that for me too. Sometimes whenever like, I suppose some days I always flip flop between My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy and Kids See Ghosts, and then I suppose after that my ranking is kind of set, but the gap in quality for me is just very thin. So sometimes I could be swapping Graduation for 808s or Yeezus for The College Dropout. Who knows, like what day it could be.
Yeah. Nah, I'm hardcore on The College Dropout train, man.
Oh, yeah. I know you are
hardcore on it.
So are you not a fan of the new Kanye, as they would say?
I'm a fan of all Kanye. It's just, man, that album's probably one of my favorite rap projects of all time. It definitely also is a grower, I think. For the longest time, my answer would have easily been My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, but I don't know, the production, man, as time goes on, it just gets better to me. It's aged perfectly, I think. It's probably up there with Mad Villainy as my favorite album in terms of hip hop production.
Dang, okay. I feel that. Okay, I remembered what I was going to say. I don't know if you want me to bring this up again. We're still talking about Kanye. I think it's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
I was going to say, I wonder if, maybe he's somebody that needs a deadline. Like, maybe he needs that sort of procrastination spirit. Like, I was thinking about this. Maybe he tells the label, like, I'm going to put the album out on this day. And it's, like, not ready, but he just wants to work in that pressure cooker environment. Like, okay, can I get this done in a certain amount of time? Because, he's Kanye West at this point. Like, what does he have to prove to anybody? Except maybe to prove to himself, can I put together an album, in X amount of time? I don't know. Yeah. I have no idea. I'm not inside his head, but that could be part of it.
It must be a weird head to explore in Kanye's.
It's a weird head to explore, but that seems like something he may do. That doesn't seem too outlandish.
Nothing's outlandish with Kanye.
It could also be a matter of like,
I wouldn't put it past him.
Overconfidence. I'm like,
well, we know that too.
Yeah, we already know about how confident Kanye is.
Yeah,
exactly.
No one loves Kanye more than Kanye.
Ah, yes. He literally has a song called "I Love Kanye."
Yeah. And speaking of new albums, I was just wondering if you have any highlights of the year, any albums that you maybe think that have flown under the radar for a lot of people.
Sure, yeah. I'm going to be working on a little like mid-year list video for albums and songs, but I can give you guys a preview of some of the ones that I think are probably a little overlooked.
Yeah, sure, man.
Cassandra Jenkins, An Overview on Phenomenal Nature, is a really, really fantastic album. I don't know how overlooked it is, but
well, the name is familiar. I might have heard it in passing. Yeah, I mean that's definitely overlooked. I haven't heard much about it.
Yeah,
that
I'm
was
in
really
the same
special.
boat. I've actually no, I've never heard of this. Actually, I should definitely give it a listen if it's overlooked.
It's definitely worth your time. That was easily my number one album of the year until the infamous week a couple weeks ago, where we got Tyler's album, Lucy Dacus's album, and Hiatus Coyote, all three of which are like serious contenders for me.
Yeah.
The one other lesser known I'll throw out there for you guys would be Bruiser Wolf's Dope Game Stupid.
Oh, that's a new one
that's
for me as well.
That's one of the ones, going back to what we were talking about with Danny Brown, that's one of the Bruiser Brigade releases this year. There's been quite a few. And I've yet to listen to the Z Loopers album that just came out, but Bruiser Wolf's is really, really interesting. He's got such a unique rap style. He's like almost like a stand.
Sorry, Z Loopers is the one that has the Van Gogh kind of title
and
the artwork, is it? I've seen that on Rate Your Music, but I actually haven't actually given myself the time to listen to it.
And the cool thing, Z Loopers is actually also a painter, and he painted all the album covers for these releases, his own and all the other Bruiser Brigade ones.
That's cool.
He's
actually.
a really interesting artist. But yeah, Bruiser Wolf's is like, my review was that it sounded like the second coming of Sugar Free. He sounds a lot like Sugar Free E40 style of rap, which I don't know if everybody's familiar with or understands, but for me it's just so engaging, and it's like constant punchlines. He has just hilarious lines the whole time, and his voice is just really infectious. So that one I'm constantly going back to as well.
Right. I'm a little familiar with like the E40's whole like Bay Area scene or whatever. I haven't actually delved like that far into it, but I am familiar with E40 at least.
Yeah, likewise. Anything to add there, Mick?
No, I have nothing to add.
Well, we've talked about past releases. What about future releases? Is there any album that you're anticipating for this year? Be it albums that were announced, or is there any artists that you hope drop an album in the near future?
So I'm definitely excited for Isaiah Rashad's. I know that's coming soon.
Same.
I would love to see. Everybody else is like salivating for Kendrick, and I don't know why people think there's a Kendrick album coming out this year. We have no evidence to suggest that, but
literally,
I would take an album from SZA. It's been 4 years since Control. I'd also take another album from Schoolboy Q. He's actually my favorite in TDE, so either of those would be great. Also, Travis Scott. There's talk of Utopia. When's Utopia coming out? I could use another Travis Scott album.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Honestly, yeah, it's been a good while since we heard from the McDonald's man himself. So I wouldn't mind another Travis Scott album.
The guy from Fortnite. We need another album from the guy from Fortnite.
Fucking 3 years since Astroworld. Like, damn.
I think
doesn't feel that long ago, honestly.
I'll go ahead. I think the reason other people are hyping up a new Kendrick album, despite there being absolutely no evidence, is probably just the time gap in between current day and Damn. I think people are just at this point getting desperate. I do recall even like 2 years ago there was discussion about like new Kendrick albums.
Yeah,
obviously.
Well, the thing is, you got to understand that with artists like him or Frank Ocean, you just at some point you just have to accept like they're gonna move at their own pace.
Yeah.
I'm in that boat. Like, hey, you do you. If we get an album, great. If not, I'm gonna listen to all your old music. I'm enjoying it still.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and considering how long it's been since Damn, like, I think it's fair to see why everybody is just so hungry for Kendrick. Obviously, it's been so long, and Kendrick has just made a huge impression on hip hop in the 2010s, like in music in general in the 2010s. And I would absolutely die if a new Kendrick Lamar album was announced like right this second. But like, I mean, just take your time, you know? Like, I'm not here to force anyone to release any music that they don't want to. Obviously, of course, going back to what you were saying, like about Kendrick and Frank Ocean, like, I'll just go back and listen to your old stuff if you're not dropping. Like, I'm okay with that. You know, you do you, obviously.
Right.
I'd be perfectly fine with that. And,
One
actually, back
artist
to
that
the...
comes to... Oh, go ahead. I was going to
No.
quickly bring up My Bloody Valentine. Have been hinting at stuff for the past like 4 years, and it's getting so frustrating because there's been nothing. It's like every year they're like, okay, this is the year.
And nothing ever comes to fruition.
It's harder than being a Kanye fan, I swear.
When was their last album? Was it like 2013 or
2013 after... oh god, I can't do maths. Like 20 plus year hiatus.
So? Yeah, right.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I just feel like they can do no wrong. They'd kill it, whatever they do.
I mean, we were kind of hopeful because there's like news earlier this year when obviously when they reissued like a lot of their records and they put pretty much everything on Spotify. Like they were saying that they were in studios and stuff like that. They wanted to make a new album. They were in the mood. But like,
I even heard like talk of more than one album or something. But I think that's
I remember
speculation
like,
getting ahead of itself.
Yeah, they said they wanted to make 2 albums or something like that. But
let's take it one at a time. Let's start with the one.
Yeah,
talk about
exactly.
number 2.
It's not King Gizzard.
Right.
Yeah,
see, that's the opposite end of the spectrum. Is like
Yeah.
the artists who release all the time. Like I love Griselda, but it's almost frustrating to me because like all their albums are good. It's like I just want to sit with this one for like give me at least 6 months before you drop another.
Yeah, no,
But they just keep putting them out, man. They're all good.
Me and Mick have this discussion every time there's a new Griselda album, and you know that happens several times a month.
Yeah.
Literally.
I don't know. Especially
I think at least
you go, Mick. We share the same opinion anyway here.
Yeah, we do. I think at least once every recap podcast we've at least mentioned Griselda once. Like even the last episode, we mentioned them and there was no Griselda album out, surprisingly.
Yeah.
So I think like the whole conversation around like the amount of music they drop and just kind of like how that affects a listener is a bit interesting because on the one hand you'll definitely have fans that absolutely love Griselda, will absolutely just eat up everything that they put out and listen to everything that they put out religiously, and then on the other hand of the spectrum, which I happen to be on, this like you could slow down a little, like you could just take your time, please, Mr. West Side Gun, please.
Yeah,
don't hurt me.
especially West Side Gun.
Listen, I like all the music. That's what makes it frustrating for me is because like I just want to sit there and enjoy this one album for X amount of time, and it's like when I go back and look at these years, like already this year I've got 2 albums from Conway that I really enjoy, and it's like I have to pick between these 2, and he's already announced a third. It's like, man, I'm like, the music's good, just let it breathe. But hey, chase a bag, I guess. Like they want to get that money, good for them.
Yeah, exactly. Make your money, do whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, actually, since we're on the topic of Griselda, how do you rank the Griselda members, or who are some of your favorites in the Griselda fold?
Yeah, so I think my first favorite has to be Benny. He was sort of the one to rope me into the whole thing. I loved. There's some really great stuff on Tana Talk 3 and The Plugs I Met. That first one is still my favorite Griselda project as a whole, and it's a short one. It's like, Kanye Good Music 2018 short. Yeah, but Conway is like sneaking up. He's like a really, really good rapper, and I love, the different flows that he employs on different projects. So he's growing on me, and also West Side Gun, man. Like when I first started listening to him, I was annoyed with his voice, as I think maybe a lot of people are. But man, like at this point, whenever I hear a West Side Gun feature, I get really excited because it's like comforting at this point. I don't know what the deal is. It's grown on me so much.
Yeah, when it comes to features, I definitely get the most excited about West Side Gun's features. I just love the energy he adds to tracks. I have to agree with you about Benny, though, and The Plugs I Met is probably my favorite Griselda project as well.
That's so good.
Yeah, for me, my favorite is easily Conway. I absolutely love Conway. Benny, honestly, I think Benny's actually like the best rapper, like out of everyone in Griselda, but I don't know what it is about Conway, but he just does so much for me. I just love his presence on the track. I love his flows. Plus,
I
like,
get that.
From King to a God is easily my favorite Griselda project. It was originally Burden of Proof, but that's kind of
Okay.
going off me a little. But I still absolutely love From King to a God. That is easily my favorite Griselda project. So I kind of have to
That's
give
a great.
Conway credit on that merit. You know?
Yeah, and I really loved that album. But the problem was looking at because that came out I think that was last year, and he also put out that Lulu EP with Alchemist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And I think
like
I
that.
preferred that just because it's like I'm obsessed with Alchemist production.
Mm.
Yeah,
But it's like already I have to pit 2 Conway albums against each other in 1 year. It hurts
Yeah.
my heart.
Yeah, The Alchemist is definitely up there as one of my favorite producers. Definitely, I suppose. Especially like I love his production on Lulu. I love his production in general. Obviously, I loved his work on the new Armand Hammer album and the Freddie Gibbs album that came out last year. So
Yep.
I mean, I suppose when it comes to like The Alchemist and like collectives like Griselda, like they're a match made in heaven because just the approach and the sonic directions. So it's obviously a given that I would love like whatever they do together, and they do great things together. You know, the Lulu EP, that one's great in my opinion.
Yeah, he did 2 of the songs on The Plugs I Met. He did, he's done songs for West Side Gun projects too. And he did that whole Boldy James album, who I think Boldy James is almost like in Griselda too.
Yeah.
Yeah, kinda. Boldy James is underrated as hell. I love Boldy James.
I think
that was one of my favorite albums of last year was Price of Tea in China. I love that one.
There's definitely potential there to be like an all-time underground hip-hop great, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. And what else was I gonna say? I think Makami's good. I like Makami as well.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, no, I forgot about Makami. Yeah.
Pray for Hades on my list this year.
There's some tracks on his new project that just blew me away, man. I think the sonic direction on that project was just so wild, I think.
Wasn't he in Griselda actually at one stage?
I think he was, and I think there was some sort of falling out between him and West Side Gun in particular. I don't know the facts about this, but obviously they're back in some way. They've mended some fences because, West Side executive produced his last album or something. And
Yeah,
had
he
a couple
did.
features on there.
Also, the album art on that album is fantastic. I love it.
Oh, yeah. That's one of my favorites of the year for sure.
Yeah, mine too.
The visuals
know
on
what.
Griselda projects, I think, definitely don't disappoint a lot of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, what are some of your favorite album covers, just in general, from like all time or even just from this year, off the top of your head?
Man. So, yeah. This year, I think Pray for Hades is probably my favorite. I really love, vibrant, colorful albums. So this was another question that came up in the Q&A video I did. And I said, Kate Trinata's 99.9% is like always stuck in my mind because that one's super colorful. I love all the Czarface album covers. I love the art style they choose there.
Yeah.
Iron Maiden's got some great album covers too.
Oh yeah.
Number the Beast.
Power Slave.
Yeah, stuff like that. I also love a good red, white, and black. So like Kill 'Em All by Metallica or Whole Lotta Red by Playboi Carti. Like
Must love the
those.
White Stripes.
Yeah, oh yeah, White Stripes. Those are great too.
I still have yet to listen to the White Stripes, actually.
You've never listened to the White Stripes?
He's never heard
obviously,
Seven Nation Army.
No, obviously, like, I've heard, like, some of the big hits, and I actually do really love the song Icky Thump, but, like, I haven't listened to their discography at all. I haven't checked out Elephant, I haven't checked out just any White Blood Cells, anything they've done, so I need to change that, because...
Elephant's obviously a classic.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say Get Behind Me, Satan is my other favorite. I think those two are my favorite White Stripes projects.
I think overall White Blood Cells is my favorite. I think it's the most energetic and just wild overall.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Definitely get on that, Nick, man.
I definitely will. I've actually been meaning to check out some of Jack White's solo work too, actually. I've heard some solid things about it, but I actually haven't gone out my way to listen to it myself. I know. What's it called? It is polarizing. What was it called? Boarding House Reach. I know that's pretty polarizing, but I'll see for myself.
Oh, I love that album on release, but it just, I don't know, it grew off me a fair bit, I would say.
Yeah, I've liked his solo stuff. I don't think it packs the punch that the White Stripes did, but he explores a lot of different styles, which is cool. And he's still got, he's obviously really talented as a musician and a songwriter, so it works. Man, it's hard to top the White Stripes. Just the energy and drive of that music is so good.
Yeah, I think the appeal with the White Stripes is the rawness of it all.
Yeah.
Just the sheer energy. I don't think his solo work really matches that. But I mean, I don't think it's completely substanceless. Obviously, I think it's definitely worth checking out, especially for fans of the White Stripes, which I know Mick will be as soon as he gets around to it.
You know me too well.
Yeah,
Dang.
man. We do this day in, day out.
We really do. Well, I'm gonna see if I have any more questions. Who are some of your favorite artists growing up, or just who are some artists that got you into music, essentially, artists that you just gravitated towards and just got to expand your taste on?
That is a good question. I think, when I was in high school, I'm not going to say how long ago that was, but when I was in high school, it was like playing guitar, and as part of that, I was listening to a lot of classic rock. And so I definitely have a palate for classic rock, more than maybe some. So, like, one of my favorite artists still from that era is Jimi Hendrix. Like, his albums are so good, man. And that's somebody that definitely expanded my palate a bit. And I would also say Miles Davis, because just like when I was like first started collecting vinyl records, one of my very first one ever was "Are You Experienced" by Jimi Hendrix, and then also pretty early on was "Sketches of Spain" by Miles Davis.
Yeah,
and I love that album. And Bitches Brew, like, he's just, again, it's just like expanding in terms of what music can be.
Yeah,
and jazz is big for me too. I was getting into jazz when I was in high school too, and it was just like, oh, I didn't know you could just have this kind of music. Like, okay.
Yeah, I've only got into jazz, like, I'd say nearly well over 6 months ago, I think. I remember, not even 6 months ago, nearly a year ago, actually. And, I was just getting into it with Miles Davis, obviously, and John Coltrane and Art Blakey and Charles Mingus and all those. And actually, I think I remember the very first time that I listened to Bitches Brew. Nostalgia gave me a vinyl copy of it for a loan. And I listened to it. I didn't realize how long it was then, but damn it, it was just it's such an entrancing album. Jesus.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't think, like, just the first thing that I thought of when I just played it and just listened to it for a while was like, wait, is this really jazz? Like, bro, this is incredible. Like, it's that album in general is just beyond jazz. Honestly, it's incredible to me. And like Miles Davis in general, like, is incredible to me. I have a In a Silent Way, which is also amazing. That came out, I think, before Bitches Brew, but I really need to get more. I love his stuff.
Yeah, Miles is definitely a favorite of mine when it comes to jazz. Overall, I think jazz is just a great genre because, a lot of genres, there are some standout tracks when it comes to just instrumentation and just musicianship, but like every single jazz piece is just, the more you like focus on it and the more you lose yourself in it, it's just every little bit of it is just magic, especially when it comes to like these geniuses like Davis or Coltrane or Art Blakey, Clifford Brown. God, like the back catalogue they have is so large, and every single, like, there's like no bad jazz albums. I can't think of any like classic 50s jazz that's just bad. Everything's just varying degrees of just good and impressive.
Varying degrees of I enjoy this.
Yeah. Like, I can't even imagine anyone like Miles Davis. How would he release something bad? Even like I know his debut is a little bit, a lot of people don't really care for it, but I still think the performances were great. Everything about that project was still very much enjoyable. It's just, jazz is fantastic.
Yeah, easily.
So just a couple other. I was just gonna add a couple other albums for like in terms of me getting into music.
Okay.
Two others that were like important to me were Channel Orange by Frank Ocean. When I first heard that, which was after his Grammys performance, because I was like, "Ooh, what is this?" And I mean, that just like completely blew my mind. And it was like at that point that I was like, okay, I really need to start taking music more seriously. And then, not too long after that, like a few months later that year, I was watching Saturday Night Live and saw Kanye performing Black Skinhead and New Slaves from Yeezus and was like, what? Like, I was not really I was a fan of some rap at that time, just like a select few artists, but it was another thing where it was like, man, I'm not really taking this seriously enough either. Like, rappers can do this. And like, I understand that Yeezus didn't hit for a lot of people, but as somebody who had not heard anything like that, that just blew my mind then and continues to now. And I mean, it's weird that was kind of my entry point to hip hop now, considering all this stuff I've gone back and listened to and all this and that, but that album blew the doors open for me.
Yeah. Yeah, it must have been weird, especially with who's Yeezus. Like, damn, like the first bit of rap that I was getting into, like, was definitely like late 2000s Kanye and like whatever else was playing on the radio, like Eminem or 50 Cent or whatever like that. I suppose when it comes to an album that kind of opened my horizons to hip hop was don't laugh at me now, Logic's Under Pressure. I love that album. I love it still to this day. I think it's easily his best album, and it's definitely one that kind of, opened up just the hip hop world for me, especially.
For me, I honestly have to thank Danny Brown, because in a lot of my younger years, I was definitely more of a hardcore, like, old school hip hop fan. I didn't really gravitate towards any of the new stuff or any sort of experimental hip hop at all. Like, the only thing I knew about Death Grips was that one. You ever see that old YouTube clip of it's just a dog swinging on a swing and then Hunger Games, like the first two lines of Hunger Games playing over it?
I don't think so.
It's one of the funniest videos I've ever watched. It was just a bizarre meme, and I was like, oh Jesus, this sounds rough. I wasn't used to anything of the sort. But then around the time, was it before? I'm trying to get a time here. I'd say 2015. It was around the time I started using Radio Music, and I decided to check out some new projects. I know, To Pimp a Butterfly was coming out around that time, and that was definitely one that I loved from day one. But then I also listened to Triple X by Danny Brown, and that record completely shifted my understanding of what hip hop could be, even down to just Danny's flows, like not stuff you could picture in like a 90s hip hop track, really. It was completely unlike anything I was listening to, and the weirdest part to me was how much I enjoyed it at the time. But in hindsight, now that my music taste is a little more broad, I definitely have to thank Danny for broadening my hip hop specific taste.
I can see
Thank
that.
Thank you, Danny Brown.
Thank you, Danny Brown. Man.
Shout out to Danny Brown, one of my Twitter followers.
Yeah, one of your good friends.
You got the follow too? No way.
Yeah, man.
Man,
it was so cool. He just tweeted like the video of my review, and I was like, "Hey, man, this is me. Like, thank you. I'm such a fan." And he was like, "I love your reviews, man," and followed me. I was like, "Wow, okay."
That must be surreal.
It's crazy.
I would die like it being in the same like virtual space as Danny Brown, no less. Or, like actually interacting with him, like
right.
Jesus.
It's weird, man.
Is there
I can imagine.
Anyone else you want to have an interaction with? Anyone you want to maybe collaborate with on YouTube? Any goals in that sphere?
I mean, I feel like the obvious end game would be to do something with Anthony Fantano. He's the godfather of YouTube music stuff. Yeah. But I don't know. I'm down for whatever. I'm very hesitant to reach out to people and like ask them to do stuff. I'd rather have the people kind of interact with me first, so I know they're on board. But I'm pretty much game for whatever.
I can see a Anthony collab in the waters, man. It's coming.
I wonder if he's seen my channel at all.
He must.
He probably has.
He must have.
He definitely has. He has to have seen it.
Watch him gradually shorten his reviews. over time.
He's just gonna come out with some video like dogging my channel, giving my channel to not good, the red flannel.
I mean, in that context, he'd probably do it. I suppose he could, if he was ever going to do that, it would probably be in like in a shitpost context. But like that's just out of character. He'll start doing 10-second album reviews on TikTok. Just watch.
Right.
I was thinking about this. There is a bit of an untapped market of like music reviews on TikTok. Have you guys seen anything on TikTok?
I don't use it, but I have seen like a bunch of things. I've seen like some like people ranking stuff and all that, and then hip hop Twitter just making a big deal out of nothing and all that.
Right.
But I definitely agree. There is definitely untapped potential for content on TikTok when it comes to music reviews. There definitely is.
Yeah, I think.
I'll go ahead.
I've seen John Denton is putting some of his clips on TikTok, and I've actually had a lot of people in my comments saying like, "Oh, this would blow up if you put it on TikTok." And like I've thought about it, but honestly, I think mine really makes more sense on YouTube because I'm parroting YouTube, and I also just like, for me, TikTok is just comedy. Like I go on that app to have a laugh, and I personally wouldn't be interested in seeing like music reviews on TikTok, so I don't know if I'll ever make that shift. But more power to anybody else who pulls it off.
And also, I think just TikTok as a whole is more for short form content. Sorry, so I don't know if there's as much room to stand out really.
That's a good point.
I mean, there's definitely some room to stand out if you make unique and funny content. So
something I was thinking about for sure.
If you're approaching from that angle, then yeah, there's definitely a market on TikTok.
Like I don't use the app often, to be honest. I don't know what goes on there, so I was just it was more out of curiosity to know if.
Oh, I'm on there way more than I should be, but yeah, I like my feed is. I get some music production stuff that's really cool. There's definitely a community there, and like Fantano is pretty active on TikTok as well, I think. But I haven't seen as much of reviews.
Yeah, my feed is like videos with like 4 views. Random stuff.
There you go. Yeah, you never know.
Algorithm works.
None of us do.
Yeah. I suppose, do you want to end it there?
Yeah, I mean, we can do. I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we have. Ruff, thank you for coming on today. We had a really fun conversation with you.
Yeah, no problem, guys. This was cool.
This was a blast for us, too.
Yeah. And, of course, thank you all so much for checking out today's interview with Ruff Criminal. I really hope that you enjoyed. Once again, thanks, Ruff, for coming on. His channel will be linked in the description, but you're more than likely coming here from him. So, there's that. And
we'll see about that.
We'll see. Yeah, I suppose with that in mind, links to our own individual YouTube channels will be in the description, as well as our Album of the Year, Rate Your Music, and our Twitter. And yeah, I suppose with that in mind, my name's been MickyT.
I'm Nostalgia.
See you.